What's going on, Reefers? Blaine here. In today's video, we're going to be kicking it off with our trip down south to Miami. We were able to make a bunch of amazing content while down there, but first we're going to kick it off with Javier's amazing system, whether it be his reef tank in his home or his unbelievable sump outside. Let's dive in. All right, Reefers, we've made our way down south. Javier, thank you so much for having me.
Nice to meet you.
We're in front of another beautiful tank. We've made our trip down here to southern parts of Florida. This is gonna be a really fun one today. We're gonna be talking about an absolutely immaculate system in his home. We'll start off with, what's the size of this tank here?
Almost 500, close to 500. It's 10 feet by 30 by 30.
Okay, 10 feet by 30 by 30. You got a ton of tank space, really long. What are you doing for all the flow in this tank? Are you really pumping it with flow to keeping it flowing?
Yeah, it's 24 hours with the MP60s, and they're probably between 78, 85%.
And then what are you doing for lighting up top? Are you using Ecotech Marine LEDs?
Ecotech with my own lighting program.
Gotcha. And then for the coral selection you were going for, you have a nice little mixed reef going at this point. You got some nice mushroom colonies in the front, some really nice LPS. Was that the end goal originally? Were you looking to do a mixed reef?
Yes, my idea was to have basically torches and hammers over here on the right. And to be honest, I love recordias. They're, fluorinated.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have all the empty space full of recordias. That's my goal. This was given to me by a friend, Cardenas. And it was one head, not even a year ago. Look at that.
I think you've done a good job mentioning that trying to fill out that bottom space of the tank is always really cool. Sand, we talked about it just earlier. Yeah. Sand's not on the top of your list.
No, I would like to have the sand basically on the back. I have quite a few wrasses. And I remember Jake Adams used to say, they can find their own house. I'm not gonna give it to them. Because, I want the tank to be nice fish, nice coral, but everyone gotta find their own way to hide.
It's true. Jake was a big proponent on that. He loved bare bottom. That was basically all of his systems were bare bottom. But he was still a person that was going to put wrasses into a tank, and like you said, they'll end up finding a home regardless of whether or not there's going to be sand. When we're talking about the wrasses and all the fish, your fish selection is amazing.
Thank you.
You went with a lot of anthias, some butterfly fish, some fish that most people wouldn't put into a normal reef tank. You've got the regal angelfish, there's hogfish. Talk to me a little bit about your fish selection, how you went about it, and what you went with.
Love blue, but basically we don't have that many blue fish unless you put a dotty, what people call it. But my friend Alexander said you gotta put anthias there. So we started putting anthias in here, and then I saw Mike Callahan's video, and I loved the butterfly. And I said, I gotta have that. Initially I bought 4, and it's 3 now, and 1 black and white. The first fish over here was the blue denso. It was 6 of them. It's only 2 now, which they are a couple, believe it or not. And a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Nothing that will fight each other. I try to keep it, even though I have like 4 or 5 tanks, they just swim together. Every once in a while, the gem tank and the yellow tank, they just, play a little bit, but you don't see any mark, nothing. So keep it simple. Keep it simple.
You've got a lot of fish too in here that we would consider utility fish, right? We've got some of the Aptasia eating filefish.
Yes.
You've got some tangs. Was there an idea in mind when you were adding those in? Yes. Was there a purpose for them?
Yes. I had a 4-line wrasse and gone, but I still have a 6-line wrasse. I had the tamarin wrasse, which are, they always nipping on it. Mm-hmm. And so far, knock on wood, like they said, my tank is free of pets, so let's keep it that way.
Right.
You gotta find something that eliminate work from you. Like the filefish, I put 2 in there. The Aptasia is under control. I don't have to worry about. I probably remove them now and put it in a little sump. I call it a little sump. Keep it there for a while. Let's see what happens in the tank and keep it, moving. The tanks, of course, they control the algae, or most of it. And looking for beauty.
With all these fish, what are you doing for feeding? How often are you feeding, and what are you feeding?
I feed every day.
Okay, feeding every day. What are you feeding the fish?
I feed a lot of mysis. I feed a lot of Reef Nutrition,
the bottled foods.
The bottle. But I feed a lot of pellets from Reef Nutrition. I don't use nothing else. That's it. I can show you the fridge now. If I open my, it's like probably 10 packets of that in there. And my freezer outside is full of San Francisco mysis shrimp.
The San Francisco Bay brand.
I love it. It's super clean. I use another brand that is super dirty. I mean, I have to rinse it and rinse it and rinse it, but I've been putting that under my water, which is 145 degrees, so it's pretty clean.
How old is the system now at this point?
Exactly 3.5 years. 3.5 years. The tank was set up by Exotic Aquarium, the old owner of Exotic Aquarium, Karen Elder, which is still building tanks. And the cabinet was made by the same guy that did my kitchen, wood design. And I have no complaint whatsoever.
One thing I've noticed a lot in my years of reefing, especially us here in the States, we kind of just trying to make the tank look really good. We just kind of put it in the house, whereas over in Europe, they really try to incorporate it into the household, making it a part of furniture. It's basically, you know, it's part of your home, right?
It's part of my home.
I love the way you've done it with your house here. Yeah. I think the accents of the cabinetry, how you've kind of set it up. Obviously, we're gonna see it soon, the sump room outside. Just all the things you've done to really make it a very functionable, yet very aesthetically pleasing reef. I love the way it looks.
This is another furniture. And basically, if you look, it's an extension of the kitchen. You know, the same color as the top of cabinets on the kitchen, nothing strong. It goes by with the flow, but at the same time, it grabs your attention.
Absolutely.
And it's at the main entrance.
That's another thing I was gonna say. I love the fact that it's the first thing you see when you walk in. I am a big hater when it comes to hiding your reef tank. I think it should be out in the front and everyone should see it. This is something for sure that should be shown to everyone that comes into the house. When it comes to controllers, automation, are you utilizing any controllers on this tank right now?
Everything is under control.
Gotcha.
I use Apex, and it's right there behind you. I don't know, we'll probably take a look at it. I have all the control for the Apex on the bottom, and the rest is outside, which I'll show you now.
I love how in today's reefing, there's just so much automation and control at this point. It's really easy to connect all your devices, get everything onto the Apex. I really like how you have your Apex set up where it's basically an iPad dashboard already set up. I really like that. I know sometimes people will utilize those, you know, Fire tablets or their iPads, and they'll set it up as like a control center for your Apex. I'm really liking that. When it comes to your lighting schedule, how long are you running your lights for?
Light goes on at 9:30 in the morning on the whites, and like around 10:30, 11, and then the blues started going on until more or less 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock is that basic blue, and like white goes up. And it goes off around, I will say 10 o'clock at night. So basically 13 hours.
And then for maintenance, we talked about it a little bit earlier, trying to make this tank as easy as possible to take care of, keeping yourself out of the tank, hands out of the tank. What are you doing for maintenance on this system? Water changes wise, things like that?
I do close to 50 to 100 gallons a month. I use natural seawater. I do everything myself. Clean the glass, vacuum the sand. I'm not gonna tell you every month because I'll be lying. I vacuum the sands when I notice that it's kind of dirty. Otherwise, I don't touch it. You know, I think the less you remove things, it's better. The less you have your hands inside the tank, the better. So I like to wash a lot, do less.
Enjoy the tank, right?
Enjoy the tank.
It's something for you to enjoy, not something for you to stress about. I know a lot of the time reefing can be a very stressful hobby. You were telling me that you battled dinos for a really long time.
For almost a year.
So during that course of that time, you went through all the different styles of ways to try to combat it. What did you do to finally get to this result today?
Without mentioning any names, or I can mention names?
Sure, please.
I use every single product. I did everything that they said, vacuum the sand every day. I crank up my UV to the smaller setting possible according to the specification. Nothing. One day at a show in Daytona, Gilbert, the owner of Reef Pro, I'm talking to him in his table, and I'm not telling him what happened. And he said, a customer just came by. He told me he deal his dynos with Reef Pro BioX. And I'm like, impossible, that's for lowering your nitrate. And he's like, yeah. He showed me pictures before and after. And Javi, it's a matter of 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, I still have your product on my home. As soon as I get home, I'm gonna crank it up on my doser. I did it. A week later, I mean, I'm telling you, the whole sand was black. I can show you pictures. A week later, it was like receding. A month later, gone. And this is, when was Aquachella? October?
Yeah, October of this past year.
I started doing it. Look at this sand. You couldn't see that sand.
Right.
You didn't know if it was corallina or if it was algae. You didn't know what it was. It was dinos completed. You know the little hairs with the bubbles? Mm-hmm. Thousand, the whole bottom. They never went to the rocks, luckily, but it was all the bottom. And I'm dosing right now, I think it's 1 meal per day. Because I started reducing, and it's there. It doesn't bother me to dose 1 meal, so keep it there.
Yeah, so
it's doing the job.
Right, it's doing the job, dosing that. Are you trying to do anything else to try and maybe raise your nitrates a little bit more to counteract that, or are you just staying the course?
My nitrates right now, I tested Sunday, it was 4.7. Phosphate is at 0 right now, which I gotta do a test in phosphorus to see. I don't wanna be at the low, but I'm talking to a guy from Triton, and he told me that if Hannah shows 0, when they do the ICP, it's not 0. So he told me, don't worry about it. Nothing had died. Everything has nice color. Everything is thriving. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think you're a great example of someone that's not particularly chasing a certain number, right?
No.
Kind of looking for stability, looking at your corals, coming in, taking a physical inspection of looking at everything, and kind of trying to play.
And
off
I feed a lot. I'm telling you, I before you came, I feel like feed probably 4 or 5 times already. Pellets.
I'm sure you need to. I mean, you got a lot of fish. We've talked about it in past videos that we've made. Anthias, any of these shoaling fish, they're so active, right? And they have such small guts. They need to be fed constantly. They're constantly excreting that, and they constantly need to be fed. They're moving around. But I really like how all of these fish, like you said, they're nice and full. They look super happy. They've been well fed. They look great. Let's go ahead and take a step outside and take a little bit closer look at this sump room. You guys are not gonna believe this. This thing's crazy. I got a chance to check it out already, but we'll go ahead and check that out now.
No problem, let's go.
Let's do it. We've made our way outside. Javier, this sump is amazing. Most people, you think about a sump down low, you've got maybe a 20, 30 gallon, old school black rim tank, and it's all chopped up with a bunch of baffles. You've went all out for this one. So let's talk a little bit about this sump room. We were just talking about the process of getting it made. What do we got going on inside this room here?
Well, this is on the ground. It's like 6 feet deep. It holds close to 300 gallons. I have like a little temporary ladder in there to go with a little bench, like a painted bench, to make it access, to make it easy. And this is basically the heart of the tank. Everything is here. I don't have any automation in there. Everything is, all the apexes are here. I recently put the air conditioning because I enclosed it. This used to be a screen, but it was getting too much dust. And we enclosed it with polycarbonate, but it was then building too much humidity. So we put the air conditioning and put a humidifier in there. I have running an Avis A400. Geo's calcium reactor, clear scrubber, algae scrubber, an Abasa Kalwasser, and Neptune.
And then you have a chiller outside as well.
Yes, the chiller is back there. Me and my friend Sunday, we pipe it under the pavers, and it's constantly running. I can also do a water change. Let's say I take off water from my tank. I don't have to get another hose or anything. I can just close one valve, open another one, and water comes from the saltwater tank back into the system. To make everything simple and accessible. So that's what I did.
It's a huge sump, but like you said, inside it's not crazy intricate. It's not like you have a ton of bells and whistles. You got the Kalkwasser reactor, you got a big old skimmer, you've got a couple of things here and there, the UV sterilizer. But it seems like kind of what you were going for was just a bigger volume of water, right? Adding on volume.
My goal from the beginning, because the tank wasn't gonna be where it's at now. It was gonna be on the wall across.
Okay.
And my wife, luckily, I have that great wife.
Yeah.
She said, "Why don't you move the tank to that wall? You can do it all, whatever size you want." And I'm already thinking, okay, if I do it here, I can do the sump outside. I'm gonna have to cut the floor of my son's room, but it's okay. We're remodeling the house, and I'm like, okay, the more water I have moving, the better the system will run. That's what they said. I don't think it's the case on my case because it took me 3 years to be to this point.
Right. I see you have some red mangroves in there as well.
Yes.
Doing a little bit of Cato too, a little bit of a refugium in a way.
Yes, actually. I have some Cheeto there growing at the same time on the bottom. Like I told you before, I want to move the mangrove to the other side and just convert that into an algae refugium. I can do something so the algae
Get some
can
nice tumble
in there. And I think if you have a reef and you don't have a mangrove somewhere, it's not a real reef, man. You gotta have it.
I'm a huge fan of them. I've used them in a ton of systems. I like actually adding them into the display itself.
I was gonna put it on display on top.
Would be amazing.
But I was afraid, with the years. And
For sure.
I know that their roots try to go into the silicone.
Yes, definitely.
And they can penetrate.
They will. They're strong. I mean, it's a tree, right? In the end, right? It is a tree. Well, once again, a sump that most people dream of. I love the idea of having a sump room. So cool. And the fact that you've put it outside in Florida, beautiful sunny Florida, climate controlled and all that good stuff. You've done an amazing job. I really love it.
The roof is insulated.
Okay.
And you see, I have a lot of palm trees over here, so I don't get the afternoon sun. So
nice and shaded.
Temperature of the tank is between 77, half a degree less.
Okay. Beautiful. We'll take a step back inside, take a look at the tank, and we'll see the rest of it.
All right, let's go.
We've gotten the chance to check out the system. We went outside and saw the sump room. This is something I like to do with every single tank tour. Jake Adams did it. He would always ask everyone, what's the best advice you would give to any reefer, either getting into the hobby or just any reefer in general?
You know what this means? Patient. Don't put a tank and think that in 2 weeks you're gonna have a front like this with the public extension like this. It's not gonna happen. Forget it. 3.5 years, and I can tell you the tank has been thriving for the last 6 months. Thriving and growing. In the last 6 months, all of these that you see now big was a frac that was frozen for a year. 6 months. Patient. Patient. Keep your hands out on this side. Or if you put it inside, make sure you watch your hand up to here. I didn't know that. I read it one day in one of the Jake Adams writing, and since that day, I've been watching my hands and trying to be patient. Don't go crazy. Don't search for a number. Don't look for a number. Just day by day. I was at a point that I was testing every day. Every day, to see the consistency of the tank. And then you start moving out. I'm once a week now. So, patient. Roma wasn't made in one day.
That's very true. Rome was not made in one day, and neither was this tank. You've proven a great point of resiliency, right? Is maintaining in this hobby. It is very hard to get through that first year, and you've made a point that this tank, as beautiful as it looks now, it went through 3 years where it took time to get to this point. And I think you're making really great points to everyone at home, whether you have a 10-gallon tank, a 500-gallon tank, 1,000-gallon tank. It doesn't matter. It takes time, and you just need to be resilient and be willing to learn as you go. I think that's the great thing about this hobby. Like today, I mean, I've been reefing for 20 years, but today I've learned so much, just so many little tips and tricks. And that's why I love coming here, visiting with any reefer and seeing their system. Thank you again so much. This has been a blast. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment as well. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss out.
Follow me, follow them.
And miss out on any future uploads. Appreciate you.
Thank you.